All right, folks, welcome back to the Wanneroo channel. Hope everybody is doing great out there. Thank you for tuning in today to the channel, and we've got an exciting video coming up here testing out federal small pistol primers. Are these any good? Are they hot or not? Well, we're going to find out with our testing here and see where we're at with these. So as you guys, if you have followed the channel here in recent times, we developed an awesome load with these Speer TMJ 147 grain bullets last year, Project USPSA. Pretty much right out of the box, developed an awesome load with Tight Group. And since I came up with such a wonderful load real quickly, it kind of evolved into, well, let's start testing primers. And why am I doing this? Well, it's kind of a thing of where you hear all these anecdotal tales about all these different primers. They're hot, they're cold, they're warm, they're soft. They're hard, they're, they're a pain in the butt to use in the progressive press, all that sort of stuff. And so that's what we definitely want to test out here with these federal primers. Obviously, these are one of the most common small pistol primers that you're going to find out there. And I've never used them though, so we're going to give it a go and try them out and see how they do. We are going to test the accuracy on them. We'll see how they function in the progressive press. We will see also too what data we get, and we will compare it with the other primers we have already tested. And I have heard different things about these. I have heard they have a very hard cup, and then I have also heard they are extremely soft. And as a result, people have had issues with them in progressive presses. So, well, we're going to try it out and kind of see what we think at the end of the day. There's also a little sleeve here that Federal kind of engineers in. You can maybe see that little slot there to keep the primer tray from easily sliding out. You know how that is with some of the primers. It's always a good idea to maybe tape them up on the edges. But anyway, so that's cool. But yes, let's give these a go. Over to the progressive press we go. Okay, folks, so first, before we get to the progressive press, let's go ahead and open up our tray here again with our primers. And we're going to go ahead and get these all set up here. Pretty big tray compared to the CCI and some of the other brands. So they definitely use kind of a meaty tray with these federal primers. So, well, we got one stuck in there. Okay, look at that. He don't want to come out. I don't think, oh, hold on a sec. I think I got something to get it. So I finally wiggled them loose. So let's go ahead and get everything anvil side up. And there we go. Now let's kind of have a look in here. So these look very different than the Winchester ones. If you guys saw the Winchester video, it was almost like black in there. So it looks kind of a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and we'll get these flipped over and we'll start loading up the primer tube and see what we think. Alright folks, so we have started to load up our priming tube. And the first thing I notice is these go in very smooth. Almost kind of like the CCIs. There's just kind of a very smooth feel getting these up into the primer tube. So hopefully that is a good indication that we're not going to have any problems on the progressive press with any sort of jam ups or anything like that. So that's definitely what we're kind of looking for, is smooth running on that progressive press, because there is at least one other brand I've had problems with, which we are going to do a test on, but that's down the road. So anyways, folks, I will finish loading up the primer tube here. We'll report any issues, and we will get over to the progressive press and start seeing how things go over there. All right, folks, so here we are at the progressive press, and the one thing that's kind of funny is how all these primers, they all kind of have their own little different feel or quirk whenever you're using them. And in this case, with seating these primers, I'd say they take the least resistance I've ever seen in terms of actually seating a primer on a progressive press. So I'd say the Winchesters probably, that I can recall, they probably took I would say, the most effort. That definitely felt like more of a tighter squeeze, and I had to put a little more pressure up here on the handle to seat them. They went in fine, you know, and all that. I mean, that wasn't a problem or anything. But yeah, so with these Federals here, it's kind of a thing of where whenever you go down and come back down to actually seat them, it's just like a little tiny bump. And so very different. The CCI and Remingtons, they go in pretty smooth, but there's a little more effort involved. And like I said, the Winchester's a bit more effort than that. So definitely on the lighter side there in terms of the force required. Just that little pop. It's real weird. Just kind of feels like a little bump, and then it goes. So anyways, thought I'd put that out there. Just kind of a different little quirk with these. So once we get 100 of these loaded up, we're going to go to the range, and we will go ahead and test these out as we have with other primers and see what data we get and see how the accuracy is. All right, folks, so here we are up at the range to test out our loads with the regular Federal small pistol primers. So for those of you who've been following along, you're aware of this load. It's 147 grain Spear TMJ bullet, 3.3 grains of tight group powder, and then of course we have our Federal small pistol primers in there. And the test gun that we've been using all along is our 5-inch Walther PPQ. Now of course Walther has superseded that pistol with some new stuff, but you know, if you find these old PPQs, I mean they're pretty good handguns. I mean, I would say the groups that they shoot are about twice as good as you know, standard Glock barrel, I find. So pretty good pistol. You know, seem to just, I don't know, it's reliable too, just works. And then we have our Pro Chrono DLX set up here, and here at the range today, it's one of these March days where it's like 1 minute it's nice and sunny and the wind stops, and then the next minute it's like cold and windy and cloud cover, and you know, so it's like I tell you guys, whenever I shoot these videos, I just got to put up with whatever weather I get, you know, and it just is what it is. Then we have our target over there. We'll do some accuracy testing later. Okay, folks, so we have all of our data here. What did we think about our rounds here that were loaded with the Federal small pistol primers? Well, some interesting data. kind of came out of this. And we also have the data from the other primers that we've done as well that we can kind of compare and see where we're at. And interestingly enough, the feet per second on this was 952, so that was our average overall. That was a little bit higher than the Remington and CCI. The Remington and CCI came in at 936 and 934. And then the Winchester came in at 966. So this is a little bit closer to the Winchester in terms of how hot these are. So a little bit hotter than the CCI and Remington that we found. The other interesting thing was the spread was actually a lot tighter. So we had 31 feet per second. The spread on the Winchesters was 49. The Remington was 53 and 44 on the CCI. So significantly tighter on the federal primers there. The other thing was our standard deviation was a bit tighter too. So we had a standard deviation of 9 feet per second. Now, the other ones, we had 14 with Winchester, we had 17 with Remington, and 14 with CCI. So a lot tighter on these federal hears. The power factor came out right in the middle of the other ones, 140, if that power factor is important to you. And then the data that we got, mostly it was fairly tight. We did have a few outliers, but mostly it was pretty tight. 944, 946, 949, 960, 941, 959, 972, another 959, 955, 943. So overall, we had that one that went up a little bit high there, 972. But most of them are fairly tight together, I would say, in there. So in the end, that worked pretty good. Now let's take a look at some accuracy here. How did this turn out? Well, the first group that I shot, I was kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of like so-so with it. First round that I put in, I was like, ooh, got it right on the 0, so I was pretty happy with that. And then the group started to kind of spread out from there as I was shooting. And one thing I did notice whenever I was shooting, it was funny. I used to notice this back whenever I shot a small bore rifle in competition for years. If I had a caffeinated drink, you could see it in the sight picture. And I had Dr. Pepper before I went out and did shooting, and I could actually tell just a little bit of jiggle. So it was kind of funny. Take note of that if you guys ever do like any sort of accuracy shooting or anything like that with the caffeinated drinks before you do your shooting. You will notice a difference, or you should, or probably will. But anyways, so the first group I was kind of, this is kind of all right. That had some that kind of flopped out here on the outside of the 0. In the end, if I can get them in the 0, I'm fairly happy with that. We're shooting at 20 yards at IDPA target, so if you can get all your shots in the 0, you're doing pretty good, and you can do it in a timely fashion as well. So it was, it was okay. And then whenever I shot my second group, then I sort of started to get in the rhythm there, and I thought this group ended up being pretty decent. So we ended up having a spread of a couple inches, but it was all in the 0, and everything's looking good. Especially these shots here, managed to keep it kind of fairly tight. Preferably, I was would rather have them all grouped around the 0, but they're in the ballpark, so we'll take it. But I'd say the accuracy pretty decent. I think the accuracy might be a touch better there than the Winchester primers. So in the end, I say the accuracy is pretty good. So how did our federal small pistol primers end up in the end? Well, they worked pretty good. I thought that there's some potential there in terms of the spread on the feet per second was a bit tighter, the standard deviation. So we're a little more consistent than the other primers. The one thing that I would say, and here I just spotted one right here, might be kind of hard to see on camera. Let's see here. One thing I did notice with these federal primers, though, let's see maybe if the light can kind of get it there, but whenever the mandrel goes and puts the primer into the primer pocket on the progressive press, One thing it does is there's a little more noticeable of kind of a dent or indentation on the primer compared to some other primers I've seen. So is that something to worry about? I don't know. I have heard people complain before about Federal primers and Progressive presses in terms of lighting off a primer accidentally. I've never actually set off a primer, by stepping on it or crushing it or squeezing it a little bit. It's not happened to me yet, but I have heard that these, tend to be maybe a little more susceptible to that. That's all internet anecdotal stuff. Have not experienced it yet myself, but I did take note of that indentation a bit more on the primer than usual. So that is something I would probably watch even more closely if I was loading these primers on a Progressive, that we don't jam one of them up or crush them or whatever, and we keep the primer system moving smoothly. So that is one thing. But overall, I would say a lot of promise there. Everything seemed to go well. I would use them again. They seemed to function just fine. Had no issues with them in terms of reliability. The accuracy seems pretty good. They worked well. So no complaints at all. Pretty happy. What I'm going to be curious to see is when we try the gold medal match primers. Is there going to be a difference there? Is the accuracy going to be better? Is it going to be even tighter on some of our data here? Well, you'll have to stay tuned and find out what happens next with that. But folks, I've already ordered some more primers, and coming up here soon, I've got at least 4 more small pistol primer tests, and I'm trying to track down 2 other brands of primers as well. So stay tuned, folks. We got a lot more testing coming on the channel, and spring is on the way. And when spring is on the way, that means I can film more videos here. Won't be able to do a huge amount in April, but coming up in May, I should have a bit of spare time to crank even more videos out. So stay tuned, folks, and we'll see you on the next one.